The relationship between Iran and Israel has undergone a dramatic transformation over the past century. Once close allies, these two nations now stand on opposite sides of the geopolitical spectrum, characterized by hostility and mistrust. To understand this shift, we must delve into the history, regional politics, and ideological changes that have shaped their relations. Mutual interests. In the aftermath of World War II, Iran and Israel found common ground despite religious and cultural differences. Both were non-Arab states surrounded by largely hostile Arab neighbors. In 1948, Iran became the first Muslim-majority country to de facto recognize Israel. Although Iran did not establish formal diplomatic ties due to domestic opposition, informal cooperation began, particularly in trade, intelligence, and military areas. Under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Iran and Israel grew close. Iran supplied Israel with oil, while Israel helped modernize Iran's military and infrastructure. This partnership was part of the periphery doctrine, a strategy by Israel to ally with non-Arab states to counterbalance the hostility from Arab nations. During the 1960s and 1970s, there was also cultural and economic exchange, with Israeli experts aiding in agricultural and technological projects in Iran. The Iranian Revolution in 1979 marked a dramatic shift in Iran-Israel relations. The overthrow of the Shah by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini and the establishment of the Islamic Republic introduced a new ideological framework that defined Israel as an adversary. The Islamic Republic adopted a staunchly anti-Zionist stance. Khomeini and his successors viewed Israel as an illegitimate state and a symbol of Western imperialism in the Middle East. Iran began supporting Palestinian groups, such as Hamas and Islamic Jihad, that opposed Israel. This support was framed as a commitment to defending oppressed Muslims and challenging Western influence. Iran severed all diplomatic ties with Israel and declared its support for the liberation of Palestine. Israeli interests in Tehran, including its embassy, were handed over to the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO. Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988. Despite the hostility, there were reports of covert arms deals between Iran and Israel during the early years of the war, particularly under the U.S.-backed Iran-Contra affair, demonstrating pragmatic considerations amid ideological tensions. Iran's support for Hezbollah in Lebanon, a militant group that has frequently clashed with Israel, became a cornerstone of its regional policy. Hezbollah's creation in 1982, following Israel's invasion of Lebanon, deepened animosities. Iran's alliance with the Assad regime in Syria further fueled tensions, as Israel viewed Iran's military presence in Syria as a direct threat. Israel views Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat. The international community, led by the U.S. and Israel, imposed sanctions on Iran to curb its nuclear activities. Iran, in turn, accused Israel of sabotaging its nuclear facilities and assassinating its scientists. Both nations have engaged in cyber attacks and covert operations, with incidents such as the Stuxnet cyber attack on Iran's nuclear facilities and alleged Israeli assassinations of Iranian scientists. Iranian leaders, including Khomeini and his successor Ali Khamenei, have repeatedly called for the elimination of Israel, intensifying the hostility. Israel, in turn, has consistently lobbied for international pressure on Iran, labeling it as the greatest threat to regional stability. Iran has condemned the normalization of relations between Israel and several Arab states under the Abraham Accords, 2020. This has further isolated Iran regionally, intensifying its rhetoric against Israel and its allies. Despite decades of hostility, some analysts argue that pragmatic considerations, such as economic interests or a shift in leadership, could one day lead to a thaw in relations. However, the ideological divide remains a significant barrier. The journey from friendship to enmity between Iran and Israel is a stark reminder of how regional dynamics, ideological shifts, and geopolitical strategies can redefine international relations. Once united by shared strategic interests, these two nations now epitomize one of the most entrenched rivalries in modern Middle Eastern politics. Resolving this conflict would require not only diplomatic ingenuity, but also a fundamental rethinking of the ideological and geopolitical frameworks that underpin their hostility.